Coming in at number 5, we have the Krig 6 from Cold War. Before Season 3 weapon balancing came along, this weapon was already decent, and now with that weapon balancing, the Krig is up there with one of the best assault rifles in Warzone. It has brilliant damage that doesn't drop off for quite some distance, making this a super powerful weapon for long range gunfights. It also has next to no recoil with the right setup, again furthering its usability. On the subject of the class setup, this is the one I recommend using. Up first, we have the Agency Suppressor, which increases the damage range and bullet speed while staying off the minimap. In the barrel slot, we have the 19.7 takedown, which again furthers the damage range. Next up, we have the Field Agent Grip, which helps control the recoil, and that's important for long range gunfights. The fourth is a preference, but I tend to use the 45 round mag as the only con is reload quickness. And finally, the Axial Arms 3x scope. Again, this is a preference. With all the added damage range and recoil control with all the other attachments, the scope makes the long range fights even easier. Next up is the Growl 5.56, and I'm sure by now you all know what this weapon is. This one broke Warzone for the longest time, with it being the go-to weapon for pretty much everyone. This weapon could win in any situation from close to long range, making it the best of the best. However, it did receive some nerfs which brought it back in line with other ARs, and with the recent weapon tuning, all weapons are now more balanced with each other, giving the Growl another chance in the meta. This doesn't mean it's overpowered like it used to be, this just means that other weapons are now in line with it. The reason it's now one of the top 5 again is because the Growl is so easy to handle. It's for more close to mid-range fights, however it has little to no recoil and the iron sights are one of the best in Modern Warfare. On top of this, the Growl also has the fastest velocity out of any AR, giving this an almost SMG feel, which is why it feels so powerful. Now let's move on to the class setup. Up first, we have the Monolithic Suppressor, which is pretty much a go-to on all Modern Warfare weapons. Then we have the Archangel Barrel, giving the weapon more range, velocity, and it actually has the best iron sights on this weapon. Next is the Commando Foregrip to further control the recoil with less cons. We then have a 60 round mag, which again is just a preference. And finally the F-Tac Rear Grip to control that recoil even further. Coming in at number 3, we have the AK-47 from Cold War. Now this weapon has slowly been creeping its way up the meta chain because of how easy it is to handle this weapon. The damage is already high, and with the most recent set of weapon buffs, the recoil is so much easier to handle, so putting a bunch of mobility attachments onto it makes this weapon very dominant, and it's slowly creeping up to be one of the top weapons in this meta. The class setup to use is as follows. Up first, we have the Suppressor, and this is just the normal one because it gives more mobility perks such as aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. This weapon is best used for mid to close range, so damage range isn't super important with this build. We want to go for quick and mobile. Then we have the Spetsnaz RPK barrel, which gives us a faster strafe speed and also makes up for that damage range decrease from the Suppressor. Next is the Spetsnaz Grip, because this gives better recoil control and a faster sprint at the cost of only movement speed, which it isn't bad because most of the time we're going to be sprinting inside of Warzone. We then have a 45 round mag, which again is a preference, however it gives you 15 extra bullets at the cost of reload speed, and that reload speed is such a small fraction. And finally we have the Drop Shot Wrap, which gives us faster ADS and flinch resistance with 0 cons. Coming in at number 2, we have the AMAX. The AMAX has been nothing but dominant in Warzone recently, so this of course had to be a part of this video. And I know you're probably wondering, what could be possibly better than this? This is the weapon that's dominating. What can be outplaying the dominating weapon? Well, I'll answer that question in just a short while. The AMAC dominates the long range game in Warzone, having a fast TTK at incredible distance. The only problem is of course the recoil. Now this recoil can be controlled a little better with few attachments, but with all the recent nerfs, the weapon is definitely harder to use, bringing it in line with the other ARs. Now onto the class setup. Up first, we have of course the Monolithic Suppressor. Then we have the XRK barrel for better range and velocity. Next is the Commando Foregrip to give the weapon some stability. We then again have the 45 round mag, which is just a preference. And finally we have the VLK3 scope, which again is a preference, it's just the one that the majority use. Finally, coming in at number 1, we have the Ram 7, which may take some of you by surprise, but this weapon has always been incredible. The recoil pretty much doesn't exist, the damage output is amazing, and it comes with a clean iron sight to save an attachment for something else if you want to. Now, to answer that question of why is it better than the AMAX, it's simply just because of all the nerfs that AMAX has been getting. They have made the weapon more in line with other ARs, giving weapons like the Ram another chance to regain the meta crown. This is the setup for the Ram. Up first we have the monolithic suppressor, then we have the FFS Ranger barrel to increase the range and velocity, next is the Commando foregrip to give it stability, we then have the 50 round mag, again a preference, and finally the VLK 3 scope, again which is just a preference, you can use whatever you like here. Thanks for watching guys, go and give these class setups a try and let us know what you think.